adjust my microphone a tinge here. And yeah, it is Friday, which means we're streaming. Hopefully, say hello in the chat. And why is there no image? Let's see. I want to see that this is working properly. I think maybe I need to refresh things. Hey Anders Lecker. I'm not getting any images. Can you let me know if it's coming through? Hello. All right. Hey Tamsin. So yes, we are coming through, which is wonderful. Sorry about the delays. Guys, I did it again. I convinced myself that when Kathy Millett came to me and said, hey, what if I did the Delta in 35mm? And what if we included an updated version of it for her lava campaign on Kickstarter? I thought, yeah, let's do that. I'll just fix a couple of parts that I know don't print very well. And, yeah, well, here we are. I thought I would load up a second copy of Maya, and we will open an older version of the Delta. And I think the file at the time was called something like... See, this is, I think it's like completely different, like transport... All-rounder concept is the one. So I'm going to open this older file. It's only 340 meg, which is interesting. The new one is 768. Not that it completely tells you what the differences are. So let's see. I just wanted to do a side-by-side comparison, and I've just realized that's going to be difficult because I have a different shader in here, so maybe I can just apply the default shader. There we go, it'll take a little time. Why is that black? Is it because the default shader is plugged into something? Yeah. Break connection, there we go. So if I just isolate the ship itself, so this is an old scene. I'm just going to delete some of these files that don't matter. You can kind of see some of the evolution and progress here. This isn't going to look fantastic. Basically, at the time I made this, I was... Let's see, let's put the top on. Same deal. Alright, so let's assign existing, Lambert. And then I guess we need to bring all of this down. I guess we don't need the top, actually, thinking about it, because most of the work has been done on the interior. Let's delete that too. And let's just turn on some refinements here, like adding some screen space ambient occlusion, just to get this to lift up. These engines were never implemented. This is just a warped version of the original engines we had on the... You can kind of see here, these were never printable. It's some really crazy bad design choices. Hello, Solo Spirit. Hello, Michael S. Welcome to the stream. So this is the original Delta. I still haven't switched the turret out. I do have a more recent version. So you can kind of see here some of the flaws. Aside from the fact that the floors themselves have these built-in open lock supports, this is the old style. I now print all of my... If you imagine this to be the print bed, I now print them all like this, so you don't need supports. Since science fiction tiles tend to be flat, or at least on top, I try to build things in such a way that we don't need anything there. You can kind of see the table here, it's built in. The kitchen is built into the wall. We have these pegs from the old style The doors, much more simplified. I don't think in this version I even have. I did have like there's some parts missing, but this was always a gap. Kathy built a part to fix that. We had all these gaps in here. Had these beds out in the open. I never really liked that. And then counting, we had bloody 3 toilets for a ship that's going to be crewed by 3 to 6 people maybe. Bit of overkill. It is a large ship. It's essentially a large house. And then all these bunks and open living, and the, turret well. I guess the original version didn't even have a well in it. I feel... Oh, and then the other thing too, the back had this static ramp that couldn't be moved. I think in order to actually get the top on, you had to take off the engine cones. And then we had a bunch of different misalignments. So let's start going through the changes. Yeah, the engines were cool, but honestly, this is just a warp on the engines from Scout Ship Beta. And in fact, if I turn the workshop back on, there's a lot of crap in here. But you can see the originals here. So I just grabbed like this and then warped it, and of course it looked like shit. So aside from this being in color, we have some serious developments. The living area is completely changed. You can see the doors too have gotten a bunch of detail. The original doors were like this. I still don't know how these are supposed to work, to be honest. There's not really room in the ceiling for them to go up or down. I guess they could almost go down. Maybe I could make a split in the middle or something, but I don't know. I need to limit myself at this point. You mean escape pods? Alright guys, yeah, that's pretty good. And I convinced myself after I changed the hull. So to backtrack a little bit, I was talking to Kathy. She was talking about the problems she had with printing. The main thing was the back area. And if we look at some of these parts and isolate them, like you had the back here. This would require a bunch of supports, right? No matter what. You'd have to support all in under here. I think this is an earlier version. I do have a more recent one than this. And this is a common theme throughout, that it had this overhang. There were other issues with the way these are supposed to print, either like this or like that. And yeah, I redeveloped this. So we actually split the rear, so it has this separate section that slots in, and I'm in the process of doing the same with the top. Now in the original we had this awkward walkway behind the engine section. It required these custom floor tiles. Look at this, look at that gap. Ugh. I mean, it disgusts me at this point in time. So I always knew with the Delta that there was a lot I wasn't proud of. And this has been in the back of my mind. It's like when we've had sales and that, yeah, happy to pimp out Scout Ship Beta, the more recent version of it, the Beta Centauri. Looks great. I've revisited Chimera models several times as well. I think by the time we got to Chimera and Sleipnir, I was fairly happy with my style and the detail level that we were adding. But this old stuff, I mean, even if you look, I haven't changed all this hull detailing, but you can see like the chamfering here is pretty severe. Now, the other thing too is we never had a standard layout. I very much sold the idea of the Lego style. And like, look at this. Look at this gap. It disgusts me. And that's all to service the fact that, I wanted to make this support free. But honestly, I still had to support under here, and, everything was a compromise. We had some issues where this cockpit would droop, and that's because The bottom only had 2 connectors down here. Also, in the old days, the gaps in the open lock clips were way worse than what they needed to be. Like, there was way more tolerance than you would ever need. And you can see here, too, this is still a solid piece. Now, we did make these non-solid when we introduced the add-ons for the missile launchers. And now you can actually see that we have these new custom floors. They've got all this awesome detail underneath. That all prints support free. Mind you, I need to test print it. Let's see. This will pair well with the stretch hole. Technically, it should be compatible. Like, nothing's changed in the middle here. But yeah, there's a whole heap of custom tiles. Again, in the cargo room, the old style, we just had this mismatch of different floor tiles. Look at this solution for the corner. I mean, my current solution is not great either, but we use the same patterns now that we used in Odyssey. You can kind of see that you can tie this down. This is Kathy's piece. You can kind of tell from all the triangulation that it wasn't made natively. This section, again, was absolutely horrible. Aside from the missing pieces that we never made a piece for, I wanted to have these Millennium Falcon style corridors, but it just felt wrong. So now we have like a little medical nook with the MedLab bed from Odyssey stretch goals. We have a little corner here that you could put medical supplies in. We now have the toilet seat's not on, but we have the one and only fresher that we need in the default layout. And mind you guys, you could easily just add one back by, you know, customizing some of this. Even like these corridor sections have been completely revamped. The original version, oh, this didn't even have the custom piece. So this is maybe a bit misrepresentative here. Let's see if I can find, let's see, this one was all-rounder concept 7. I need all-rounder concept 8. 9, in fact, open. Don't save. And again, I think what I'll do is I'll just whack on the default shader. And that should address most of our issues. And then if we turn off the upper hull, it's going to be a lot of mess here, actually. And we don't need, let's see, ground can be turned off. What's in layer 1? I don't know. Floors and engines. These layers don't even seem to be working. So I'm just going to temporarily delete some of the upstairs stuff here. And again, yeah, we had this piece, right? The sort of padding on the walls ended halfway up. This was all open with these really standard corridor pieces. And so what I've done now is actually taken this a bit further up. It's not all the way up. It's enough that it, you know, sort of doesn't obscure everything. I feel like this looks cooler. You still have your sort of like smuggling compartment down there that you can remove. We now have a proper hatch here, and I'd like to put some built-in ladder well or something down, maybe. I did have another copy open. We'll use the same ramp as before. Now, I want to point something out on the old model. This at least had, you know, a functional ramp, but it just went up and down like so. Nothing to really hold it into place. And then look at the clearance if you're a character. This ramp is really a lot steeper than the current one. There's almost no clearance. Like this would be if it's all the way down. So by taking out that back passage, we've added clearance. Technically, we could probably get a bit steeper on this ramp, like it's possible, if you really wanted to get more clearance. But like, yeah, it's all about balance, right? You love the upper hull cockpit. I like it too, and you know, we were talking in the forums about what are we doing here really. So Delta, we put it into 3DO, but we never did the deck plan. We never standardized the deck plan. I kind of like did a few renders from like 3 angles and basically said, good luck, I wash my hands of it. Think of it as Lego. Which is a very lazy way of doing things. And now you can see all of these walls are custom from Starship The Next Generation variants. We've got this sort of like piping, but it follows a specific path. We have a hyperdrive, which we didn't have before. I still need to figure out, probably customize these control panels just a little bit for engineering. And like I said, we have a more modernized turret that we could add back in. And I want to put an airlock down the bottom. And the other thing I really want to do, which is this thing, is actually close off this hull that always felt like it was just a gap. Like if I grab the Delta up there, you can, if I turn it around, you can just see this hole in the back of it. So I never loved the Delta as much as, I didn't feel like it deserves the love it gets. And I feel like now I'm starting to do it justice. And I think basically by the end of today, we'll be feature complete. And then Monday will be a case of exporting. I fixed the cockpit's droopage by adding additional open lock clips. This will mean you need to reprint the cockpit part. I mean, just adding small little details like this, it does make a big difference. So what I'm thinking is the new Delta is going to have these built-in missiles. It's going to have a built-in turret well there. And airlocks top and bottom, I think. Actually, no, probably not top. We'll keep it the standard design. Now, I have a friend that wants to use these to render with. So my goal was to kind of at least have the mesh for... They want the version that's got the double deck. And yeah, I'm kind of running out of time a little bit. So, I don't know, maybe we will stop windbagging a little bit and focus more on actually doing stuff. But before I get in too far, I need to go grab something. Alrighty, let's switch to big camera mode and take a look at this week's Vandervac. So this is the new Star Mule. Sorry, I really suck at this. We still don't have a dedicated camera. It came out really well. I love it. Control panel's a little bit sticky. I probably need to shave a layer off the prongs. This is very tight. And these are a bit loose at the moment. A coat of paint will probably fix that, but yeah, mind you, I did print this also at 0.2 millimeters, so I think if I did it properly... Is that a gap or curling? Hey, it is. There's a little bit of curling there you can see with just that part there, but I think in general it came out really well. $5. I think that's a good deal if you're a tribe member. And if we continue, you know, to create these quality craft, A, we create stuff that's got value for us, and B, yeah, they're really fun to work on. And now that we have so many different parts to play with, building something like this can be done inside of a week rather than several weeks. Okay, let's get back to the stream chat. Let's see. Totally Glitch says I sound stressed, but he doesn't realize that he really kicked butt on both these ships. Where is the button for the hee-haw? What is a hee-haw? Ships like the Mule make more tabletop presence. Yeah, I think it does help. This is great background stuff. I can see like doing a dropship version in the future or that sort of thing. And it's a very fun ship in general. So I'm just gonna put it away. So yeah, I am a bit stressed. The other thing too is I'm slightly congested and trying to deal with that whilst being live on a stream. Let's see. Get some rotor wings and the Mule instant cyberpunk. Yeah, it could be. Okay, so just before I came on, I finished this sort of bunk port. So that plugs into that. You got this nice little bunk room. We do need to shore up this piece. Now this, to be fair, was not my original design. This Theo's, and when I built it I thought it was going to be printed in a different orientation. I kind of decided to not go for uniform plates, and I really like the effect. Yeah, I really do. I think it looks cool. And you know, again, this wall in the old version just has these god-awful gaps. Curbs were hard at the time, or I was trying to stick to like more default floor tiles. I did take out all of the lamps on these walls. So these are original piece variants. Oh, I didn't take out these ones. Because I didn't feel like these lamps really fit with the aesthetic of the Delta. I've never seen in Star Wars these, you know, industrial lamps. So I'm just going to take these out, and then I want you guys, I might do a poll, to tell me what we're going to work on. And I think the choices will be... Alrighty, yeah, that should bring it up to speed. No more lamps hidden in there. It looks more galaxy far, far away. I really like the hyperdrive and the offset cargo bay. If I had more time, I'd maybe make like a droid charging station in this corner or something like that. I thought I did one for the Cerberus, but it turns out it was just an idea that I never actually developed. So the three options we have is we do need to do a small amount of wall space creation. So this needs to be updated to Starship the Next Generation standards. We need to finish this piece at the back and the corresponding hull to that. And we need to work on this ramp cowl. So I'm going to create a poll, and you guys are going to choose what we work on. Let's see. There's the poll. Get your horses ready. Oh, the hee-haw is... okay, like... Okay, gotcha. Right, sorry. That if you're not reading the text, there was context in the chat. I swear, I'm not just making random donkey noises. Let's see. So far, Ramp Cowl is winning by a landslide after 6 votes. And we've got about twice as many people that might be active at the moment. So if you are in the chat, give it a second to just vote for what we want to see. When I'm all done, I'm going to add a bunch more detail. I think also I'll probably put some pipes or something in there. But like I said, I do need to export a version of this today, and preferably before 5:30, so I can go home to the wife and dog. Alright, I think we can fairly confidently say the ramp cowl will be the one. I do want to get this finished. I want to get it all finished. I wanted it finished last week. So I'm thinking this will just be a friction fit, and we will probably, just for simplicity's sake, we're going to use some joint clips. It's not optimal, but I think really right now we don't want to be reinventing the wheel, and this kind of mechanism works but requires, or is that a separate object? I can never remember. Did we make this its own thing? Oh yeah, that prints flat. So the question is, can we just do another one of these? And the answer is probably no. And the reason I'm saying no is because those ramps would want to be printed flat. Like if we take this piece, you can see here that that's printed vertically. So like this would be the base of the 3D printer if you're in here. By the way, has anyone test printed the mule yet? It's a good question. And the poll with eight votes. There we go. So I can see the chat battle. And yeah, let's get going. So it seems like yeah, I just don't know what to talk about these days. See, this will fold up like so. It'll actually probably bend up and then back down again. There will be a gap, but if we've got that door closed, it's not going to feel like that much of a gap. And technically this ramp's maybe a bit too long, but since it's variable in length, like you could literally have it just half extended if you really wanted a short ramp. So you'll have some options. Totally Glitch says, my modular cutter and Christmas presents are standing between the mule and I. Good to know. Shadow Liger did make some Christmas decorations, and I think we might make those more publicly available as an extra thing for the tribe. John wants to experiment this month with not having too much crap up. Okay, so how are we going to solve this? We're going to need to put in some clip holes here. We're going to need those joint clips I mentioned, and we're going to have to build this so that it comfortably can rotate. Now, to accomplish this, I've been, despite the fact that it messes with naming conventions in the scene, despite the fact that it sort of messes with some other issues I've had, I am just opening other scenes that I know have the parts and just copying and pasting in them. This is something you can do. Let's go to date modified to sort this, and we'll just look for the most recent version of Beowulf. I do have a Traveller update ready to go out today. I'm just waiting for John to report back on his side of things, like what he wants mentioned in the update. But essentially, it is just a case of listing out the order of how things are going to be updated. So, for this coming week, this week, I realized that the 28mm male TL13 vac suit and female TL13 vac suit, those miniatures already exist. They just need to be packaged and then actually, put up. So those can be done either today, probably a bit later in the day, or tomorrow during Saturday. I know it's work, but still, I want to get this done. Although, maybe I need to also take the weekends and, I don't know, play some Cyberpunk or something different. Next week, once the Delta's done, hopefully Delta is fully finished by Monday, I want to do the 30-ton slow boat and the small craft cradle. So these are basically some of the first social and stretch goals. Then the other stuff, like the Rampart variants, the Instead small craft miniatures, and our small craft miniatures, they're going to not be worked upon until January. That's when Albin is back at the office. He's going to be doing those things. So yeah, that's kind of like where we're at with that. Just as a slight aside on the Traveller, it's not that it has been discarded, but the Delta here was a commitment made before the campaign was over, and it is partially my fault that I've done a better job of updating it, I feel, than I would have otherwise. But I just felt it was in too much of an embarrassing state. So I think now the entire Delta should be printable without supports. Maybe the exception would be the cockpit, thinking about it. But yeah, we want to open a version of... Where is it? This is the downside of having a larger monitor. The text is very hard to read. Let's see. Beowulf reference. I would imagine that will work. We don't save here, as this is old work and sad work. That's the other thing. Some of these, like the teeth on top of the open lock tiles, the wall tiles, actually intersected with the ceiling, so I would have to manually take a knife and cut off those parts, and then I forgot to update them. So, yeah. Shadow Legate was happy to be part of the Second Dynasty Christmas plans. Shadow Liger is like MVP most of the time, to be honest. And thank you for Totally Glitch says you kicked butt, be proud. So I take that to mean that the Delta modifications are appreciated. Despite specifically not having a light kit, I did design the engine so that this is sort of like a built-in support to get the fans going. There are actually very small gaps in the fans, so very fine printers. I mean, they're not absolutely beautiful designs by any stretch. There is room technically here if you really wanted to get into lighting. You could certainly put in some batteries and lighting cables. I even left a little gap down the bottom if you need to feed cables being hidden elsewhere. But I would just stuff some batteries in there, and you could do like the engine light. And yeah, I guess I didn't leave room for a switch. That's the main issue, I'd say. But yeah, the new engines too, you can see there, they take the same kind of engine type as all of the Traveller ships. They have these engine cowls, so they would be backlit. No 5803 says, Ben, is the Delta update with the expansion whole bits? Like for the long version. Okay, so is it compatible, I assume is what you're asking. In the words of Newt, mostly. Yeah. The thing is, like, it's not going to be 100% compatible. And it's going to be hard for me to judge which parts work and which don't. The thing is, some of the parts will be supported by default. Like, for example, you'll have the option of having a missile launcher in the default version now. Basically, we'll update those files too. And this is more updated than the previous version. And let's see, I want to just grab... let's look at this, and then I think if we, there should be like a hinge clip in here. Yep, there we go. Wait, no, that's just holding the hinge clip. So here's the hinge clip, there's the hinge clip. Let's isolate it, put that down straight. Now I'm just going to duplicate this, and I'm going to drag these files out, copy, and then we just paste it into this scene. And hopefully we just apply the default shader. We should have probably done that beforehand. And so now we know approximately what we're working with. I'm not sure if this is John's most latest version or whatever, but this cowl just dropped down. So yeah, the long version, I'd say yes. That should technically work. It does bother me a little that I did nothing with this wall, but I think we need to be happy with what we've got at the moment, to be honest. Yeah, I think so. I had this idea, or rather, people in the Discord gave me the idea that perhaps what we could do is standalone versions of the Delta variants. Like, I was planning to do this with Hammerhead. That was going to be like if the last Traveler campaign went to shit and we just didn't get enough money in, my sort of emergency December funding would have been like a proper launch of the Hammerhead. And I've got it in a state that it's almost complete at sort of like Beta Centauri levels of detail. Maybe do it a bit more customized. But instead, this what I was thinking is you could do variants of this with full deck plans, do it all like with proper instructions, and then you could also have the updated expansion version. So technically, I've changed most of these parts, but I've gone out of my way to not change the position of the open lock clips. So I think the only real exception is maybe in the cockpit here. I'm in the process of moving up the open lock clips. Let's see. I don't think these align. You can see, yeah, the forward clip is right here. This is the old position. And part of the reason is I just wanted to have that extra support there, so we're not going to get any droopage. So that's the main thing. There's still a lot of issues in here to be resolved, to be honest. And I can easily see myself getting caught doing this for another week. I really don't want to do that. I need to move on. You know, we've got stuff we've promised. It's just me at the moment working on these. So, Tamsin asks, I'm waiting for all the stretch goals before printing the Traveller small craft. Yeah, that's fair enough. And of all of the things, there's not as many things that we need to do for that, but the things that we do need to do are quite large. And some of them I could maybe give to John or Albin to do, but I think the vast majority I kind of have to do myself. Let's see, this should have come in as a group, yep. The question is, where is the central point of this? It actually looks like it might have preserved it. So hopefully that's... If I take this, no, it should be here. So if I just move that over to there, and then hopefully that should be midpoint between there and there. It's not. Okay, how do we address this? By just simply moving this pivot point to there. Alright, so that should be the point of where it gets connected to an open lock port. We want this to be on our grid, and we want it to correspond to the other side here. This is a very simple hatch. It's not that complicated. In theory, this is all we need to do to service it. And actually, I'm quite happy to be breaking up this ramp thing. I know there are some clip holes behind it. But let's grab this. Let's grab this. Let's grab our base mesh there. And then what I think I'll do is I'll grab one of these floor tiles, because I know that these clip holes are more accurate, even if they're not actually deep. And we do have a slight issue here. Now this is one of those things where I could... For one thing, again, we can see that these ports... Sorry, I'm just going to double check that. Yeah, that's just my wife telling me about the dog, so I can take care of that at 4 when we're done. Let's see. Here we go. So these don't have to be any deeper than this, especially given the print orientation that they have. So I'm sort of just bringing these open lock ports to the position that I know prints better. So we don't have any intersection. The problem is that we really would like that ramp here. Actually, there's plenty of room over here. So what we could do is just, let's see, I'm going to copy this and I'm just going to grab the base here, and then I'm going to delete all of this. And really all I'm trying to do is sort of measure up where the open lock, let's see, if I move this on the grid, so there is a hidden invisible grid here. I'll copy this again over here, because I just want to sort of align this to where we might expect this all to be. So let's move that there. That can move back to, was it there? Yep, that looks aligned. So technically if I move this into place, it should maneuver to a position where it looks like this clip is fully locked, which is correct. This is the correct orientation. So now what I'm just going to do is take our group here, and then I'm going to parent it to this thing, and then we can move this into position wherever we want it to sort of rest, and we know now that's on the grid. So I'm actually going to drop the fidelity of my grid down to about 4, which means for every inch in the scene we are only allowing 4 steps. So we can very easily keep this at a certain height and level. So my theory here is there should be enough room besides this cavity, if we move this forward just 1 and over 1, that clip could comfortably fit in there without intersecting with this existing clip. And ideally that's where I want things to be, because that will mean that you wouldn't technically have to reprint. I guess it doesn't matter if we move this port here, that wouldn't affect the greater scheme of things. If we move this port though, it would. Alright, let's see. That Blasted Camouflage asks, not suggesting for now, but if you ever can, having a ramp that has the pneumatic parts as seen on the Falcon's ramp, that would be amazing. I think you've learned a lot since the Delta, and that you could certainly do moving parts such as that now. Yes, and I looked into it and decided it's going to take too much time. That's ultimately it. In fact, somewhere in my workshop files, if I turn on the workshop, maybe not there, was it in layer 1? Maybe not there, layer 2. I've got too many, I might have deleted it already, but I did have like some test parts in that I had bought into the scene. It's not this, is it? No. And yeah, no, it's just a bit too complicated, I would say. So technically we can have this in here. We probably want to flip this, I would imagine, because this design is built to sort of, I guess it goes both ways, but it angles better this way. So the question is, what's the easiest way to do this? And I'm thinking that if we just take this and we move that pivot from here to the corner, Let's see, is that the right corner? Yep. We should just be able to redirect this to this corner and then 180 it over. And then we've got our correct orientation. Now, if we then grab, let's see, there's a chance this won't work, but there we go. So we just grab this sort of like half done one again, and we're just going to rotate this into place as well on our grid and figure out exactly where we want the opposite end. And if I was really clever, I would have designed this so that this part actually fell on that grid. It looks like it's very close, but it's not exact. But this will give us some idea about what we need to achieve this. So if we then parent that to this, and then this to that, we essentially can simulate what it's going to be like to lower this ramp. So we can see here we're going to have some intersection issues as is. Quite a bit of intersection issues. Where does it have to go? Down to about here. I can see here all of the places that it is intersecting. And this basically indicates to me that we probably want to move this back a little. So I'm going to unparent this just by dragging it back out. So if I select this, it's still parented, but not to that. This thing, I'm now going to use to just drop down. Actually, no, pull back. Let's try pull it back a 1/4 inch first. So to there. And right now we're not really truly worried about the cutting all of this out or anything like that. I'm just trying to see how this would look. Because we do have options to sort of like carve this out. This piece prints like so. Prints as a whole piece. It is quite large, but I think it'll still probably print on like a... How wide is this? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches. So diagonally you could get that on a Prusa Mini, I think. So yeah, now if we parent these again, and that sort of just like changes the hierarchy. You can kind of see it over to the left here, although it is quite small. So now if we move this again, when it turns, there is some intersection, and that's expected. The main thing I'm looking for is that this line is not intersecting, because I can get rid of this back wall, and I can cut some things out of here, but how far do we need to come down? About this far, which is 40 degrees. And then presumably the ramp would sort of fall down on top. So we probably don't even have to come down that far. But this would allow the ramp to sort of like be steeper if you wanted to get more head clearance. So I think maybe we want to unparent these again. That's fine, but not to that one, right? And I think, actually no, we don't want that one either. Something like that. I think what we probably want to do is a compromise between those two things. So let's go to our grid. Instead of like a 1/4 inch, we'll go to 1/8 of an inch. And we just pop that forward like so. Pop that forward so it's all rested in the same position, and we do the same thing with the hierarchy work, parenting things. It's just the P key in Maya. And here, again, I'm looking for the intersection of this line. It looks okay. That's 40 degrees. So we'd need to carve out some of this, basically enough so that the ramp is covered. So I might actually go in and start. Let's isolate just this. So Oh, okay, this curves upwards slightly. So that's a question. How much does this intersect? And that intersects with that. But that's, again, the part that we can take out. So the question is, where does this come in? Oh, okay, there is a little bit of clearance. So let's just start off by making a cut across here. And then we'll make another cut just above it. Something like that. And we'll probably go for like the maximum tolerance here. Like, no room for error. Because it doesn't matter if that ramp hangs a bit. I don't think it needs to be a full 35 degrees down. And now I'm just using the scale tool to just scale that line down so that I know it's perfectly straight. It essentially brings the scale down to 0. But yeah. Do you guys prefer, by the way, if I just shoot the shit or if I describe what I'm doing in Maya? What is more useful and interesting to you guys? Or have you checked out and are just leaving the stream on for my sake? In which case, thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. So yeah, we probably need a little bit of a gap here too. This line should be straight, so if I hit 10% here, I think if we gutted that out, let's see, we'll go something like that, up there. This is very, very rough. But, you know, sometimes this is all you need. There we go. So I'm just going to cut that out. This does look like it needs to come down a bit further. I don't want it to be like paper thin. I want it to just be like this one. Sorry, and this, which is hidden behind it. I'd like it to just be exactly where that is, and hopefully that is at least one layer. Let's turn off snapping. Do it manually. We need to do it manually. To use the force, as it were. Alright. So now we can focus on this piece again and just remove all of these. And then just get rid of any unwanted polygons for the time being. I'm just going to rebuild all of this just so that the geometry makes more sense. Hopefully, yeah, okay, that works out rather well. There to there. And then we can just close that off. So we should have a little bit of a gap there. And again, it's just so that we can get one layer thick here at least. So it won't be too thin. And then what I usually do is just grab like all but not quite the end, because it's the way Maya works. It, you know, doesn't like to close gaps unless it absolutely has to. So yeah, I'm just working in such a way that we can, actually that's not good. I think we just grab these, whoops, there to there, go up to there, close this off, close that off, that, and then like so, and we'll close this as well. So there's our first step, and again, if we look at this from the side on, take these parts, you can see as we work this what we need to work on intersecting. Before I bring this up, what I'm actually going to do is take these rear vertices and I'm actually going to so that is curved, but that does look like it's more or less flat. It's not actually perfectly flat, which is slightly annoying. So I'm going to actually take this line and going to grab this back section here, and I'm just going to do ye old black magic. It's not really black magic at all, but grab these. We're going to do the same thing, just ensuring we've got a nice flat surface. And then I'm just going to move these to where we would need it so it doesn't intersect. And in fact, I'm going to snap these in here because I want to do some extrusions. Now this should all be aligned in theory. So I'm moving that there. I'll probably move that up a tiny little bit. And again, like this isn't, just needs to fit right here on the corners. And it's kind of hard to see. But we just want to make sure that there's no holes in the hull, or at least none in this sort of section. So I'm just manually moving it out a little. Still no comments? I guess you guys went to option 3. Right, so sorry, still got that cough. So now there is a nasty gap down here. That's just the price of doing business when you've got, you know, toy models. I think we might need a bit more of a lip here to sort of friction fit it. This is really not gonna, I'm not gonna know how it is until it's test printed. It might be a bit loose. Maybe what we could conceivably do is have some like side hooks here, but again, this should technically print on one of the sides because it's flat. I could make it print on this flat, but I really don't want to. I don't think it will have adequate support. So, again, making sure that the gap, what I'm going to do too is make sure that there is no tolerance here on the side. I think I have made sure there's some tolerance. Okay, no, I'll stick to the design as it is. It's going to be too complicated to change. But I could, in theory, merge these shapes now because I'm happy with where it's going to be changing. I can also start building. Oh no, it is intersecting. Okay, so like I said, it's not the end of the world if we want to change this open log port, so we're going to do that. We're going to move it down slightly. That is too much, so I will manually lift it. So there's the bottom of that one. If we put it about there, we've still got enough thickness here that it shouldn't create too much of an issue. And again, if you're printing this alternative back anyway, you're also printing the opposite side, so that particular clip hole doesn't matter. Alrighty, I need a sip of my energy drink. Ah yes, monstrous. Okay. So yeah, basically, we want to do all we can here to sort of reinforce this structure. You can see here it's like bang on, but there will be like a gap here. So there's a nice amount of tolerance there. And actually I can probably fix this so that, let's see, if I just took one of these open lock ports, again, like so, invert, delete, set the pivot to one of these corners. So I'm just going to center the pivot first and then move it. And again, the pivot is the point that we use to sort of move and snap things with. So if I snap this into the corner of that port, if I rotate that, it should be the exact same size, which it is. Nice to know that some things have not changed between open lock versions. You can see here this one has a bit more breathing room. Technically, I could probably take that and just lift it a tiny bit to create a bit of tolerance. And I think that should be right. Looks like it is. Yeah. But that's basically the position that we want to recreate. So I can merge these, delete the history. Hopefully I haven't lost any of the coloring I've done. No, not so far. And then like we just want to build some infrastructure around this, right? So I think honestly we can come all the way out with this until we're right at the edge. So we're just going to create like an artificial lip. And I don't think that will intersect with anything, but what it will help with is like sort of like supporting the direction. Just got to make sure that this isn't going to intersect with this. So down 40 degrees. That looks fine. Not a problem. So all of this sort of like structure underneath is supporting the changes that I'm making, right? So let's grab these walls and we'll just extrude over. I don't mind there being gaps and things in here, and actually like this extra geometry kind of makes it look more interesting than just that flat surface it was, in my opinion anyway. And then we'll just do the same thing but going up, and this time I might see if I can snap it to the grid. Just making sure there's no extra chats. Apparently not so popular anymore. And then I just want to pull this back to somewhere close to, let's take that over there. Okay, so that's going to be fine. There's no intersection. Now I'm doing, like, you could mess around and make this fit exactly, but these days I just try and fit it approximately. So if I create a bridge there, bridge there, and a bridge there. Hey, that's the exact amount of polygons it needed to be. That is convenient. We take out this side piece, we take out these pieces because we need to constitute those polygons. I don't know if that's really the best word to describe it, but that's essentially what we're doing. We're telling the polygons, your constitution is rubbish, you must make a new one. We are amending the polygon's constitution. Hopefully this is exactly the same here. Actually, we can just take this loop, take the sides out, bridge, yes, it worked. Create some geometry here. I mean, I'm deliberately making some areas here that are triangulated. Normally you wouldn't need to. It's just, this is the more secure way of doing things. So I would say now, let's triangulate that one because we've got ourselves a nice awkward shape. So I think this would be better. So we've got the base shape. We've still got our colored mesh. I'll delete the history and hopefully that should stay the same. All right, great. The lip, not as thick as I would like it to be, but I think it should print. Technically we could test print, but I'm not going to because we're about out of time right now. So let's just quickly finish this ramp, and I think the way to do that is to combine these two objects, but what I might do is again just grab the open lock port from this object like so. Center the pivot, move the pivot point to a corner, move this into position so we know it's where it's supposed to be, and then we can actually remove this piece remove the ramp from underneath it. This no longer is needed because we have this open lock port. We can connect these two objects. Mesh combine. If we just temporarily parent this to test once again. Let's see, 40 degrees. That all looks like it's sliding past exactly where it's meant to be. So we can go up again with this line, like so. Let's match that to here. Bring it up a little further actually. So we can actually create an artificial lip. I think this should work. And then the idea is that this should sit on the shelf. We can even go all the way up this. Actually, no, that'll intersect. So we need to be more clever with this. Actually, we're going to undo the extrude. And we're going to unparent this completely. Actually, no, we'll do it after we move this back into position. Alright, and so now technically I think what we do is we just draw this to where the open lock clip port starts. And again, I just want to make sure. Note how I'm testing all of the time to make sure that there's no intersection occurring anywhere here. And this looks good. So I'm going to undo the parenting. Alright. Oh, it's still parented. Yeah, we eventually are going to have that, but basically we just need to close this off now. And the only other consideration we need to make is to ensure that this doesn't connect with that. We have plenty of room here, so I'm actually going to push this forward. And we're going to hope for, actually we're just going to push this forward. And we'll need to do it at a bit of an angle. But I want this to friction fit. Hopefully that's enough density. It probably won't be because of like how loose the clip joints are going to be. So there might be some trial and error here. If I really wanted to get clever, I could maybe have some kind of hook system there. But this Mark 1 version, I guess, doesn't need to be all that fancy. It's mostly a proof of concept. Having said that though, this is probably what's going to go into the sort of finished version. So all that remains now is to close off some of these edges. And yes, I know I'm running a bit over, but I'd rather get this done. And actually we'll go there, I think. And there. Close that off there. Close that off there. Then we're just sort of like covering our bases here. And we kind of need to do this with all of these sections, just so when we do extrude upwards, we're not taking some really awkward angles with this. I mean, we probably will anyway, but ideally, we've closed all of this off. That doesn't need to be there. That can be there. And yeah, we're pretty close to getting this part done. We can see there's actually a little bit of an issue. So we can address that by just, whoops, we want to snap on there. Merge those vertices. The vertices need merging. its choice. Why did that not work? That did. So yeah, I'm closing off these gaps. There are some very small bridging actions going on here. Let's see, I think I can bridge from there to there. You can see here I'm limiting the amount of times that I'm going to have to extrude up, and kind of also ensuring that when I do, it's going to look like a proper closed job. So if I go here, I'll create a slightly awkward angle there, but I should be able to keep doing this. And then to here. And then yeah, I'm going to take there to there. We're just going to go up, merge once, repeat, merge these parts. We check to ensure that our ramp has plenty of clearance, which it does. Again, this is the flat that we're going to print on. It'll print like this. And we needed to make sure that, you know, there weren't any holes or major issues with this. And then we basically are going to drag up some of these parts. Actually, we'll just drag these ones. We're going to even it out. And we probably just want to go, if we bring this down to match here, we're just going to go, actually no, we want to move that to there. We're going to bring this down to here and then align up here, and basically we'll have the same clearance between there and there. Again, this should be pretty thick. Not a bad shape. Dirt simple. And then I'm actually going to turn my grid back on, because we're going to create some, just a moderate amount of ribbing. So the idea being, if we then just take like these and we extrude down like 1 millimeter, so down, not up, -1, and then make the angle minus, oh sorry, just 1. You can see here we've got a slight issue where those didn't quite align, but you know what, I don't hate it. It's not great. Why are these different? That's really weird, actually. So I might just leave the extrusion for now, and we want to make sure there's nothing wonky going on in this mesh, and it looks like there is. So I'm just going to merge these vertices and make sure. See, the weird thing is, what is all of this? What is all of this? Like, it's not, if I delete that, we're back to the same line. So there's probably there's a tiny little gap. So we need to, this is a part of the problem solving section. Let's see, our side view should be this one. And if we zoom into these, yeah, we can see there's actually a mismatch already here. So that needs to be brought back to there. I think that's the only one there. That to there, and then all of these ones to there. Merge again. Oh man. Hopefully they can just be moved back into place. I realigned them from the wrong view, and it's, yeah, it was not good. That should technically work, I think. No, we're gonna have to go back a couple of steps. Alrighty. So the one that moved that over. So basically, I just need to do this in, whoops, like so. That looks better. So now if I attempt again after hitting refresh here, if I try to go down, let's call it like minus 1.5, and then we go in one, we get this nice little framework that should print just fine on its side. We adjust here, so we're just going to pull this back to, let's put it on the grid to say like here, grab these vertexes, move it like half a point there. We're actually going to take out, whoops, this and recreate that geometry. Wait, why? All right, yeah. Just so that, you know, we're not covering our joint. So it looks like it's going to have a little bit of structure to it. Technically, I could probably add a pattern in there too. And if I had more time, if this was like a much larger project, I would definitely do that. But time is not something I have much of. It's Friday. I've got a lot to do before I can go home. So we're just going to close all of this now. Start with the big gaps. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be manifold, which essentially means it doesn't have any gaps. There is going to be a slight bit of ugly geometry in here, so again we'll fill and then triangulate that. I guess it's technically a quad, but it looks like an n-gon because of that awkward shape, so it's better if we triangulate it. The rest we can honestly just do a fill, and even though that will be an n-gon, no slicer is going to misinterpret this. So now we've got just this little tip, just the tip left. Again, we're just going to close it off, concentrating on the largest gaps. Alright, so pretty straightforward, kind of in keeping with the original model. And now we can move that pivot point to the center somewhere, duplicate, scale in the Z or Z, and then mesh combine. And now technically we want to get rid of this thick line by doing a merge vertices. Now that didn't completely work, which tells me one thing. This is not a perfect mirror. So let's get back to basics. We need to have all of this so that it is properly aligned down the center. So let's look on our grid and see where we're going wrong. See, this should all be dead on Z, but it's not. Some of this is misaligned, and it's basically, it is this top thing. So if I grab this, go to somewhere where I know it should be on the line, and move the pivot point there. And I think the issue was like we grabbed one of those top corners which wasn't properly aligned. So you saw it very subtly move. And in fact you can see that the old pivot point, it's kind of hard to see, but it is just slightly off center. So again, if we just move that there and we do a repeat of the old process, we freeze the transformations. Merge these. If we hit 3 for smoothing, if we see there's no issues along this line, it looks great and clean up until this point in the middle, but it's to be expected from all those patterns. There is a slight issue here with these, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to get this on the grid. Get this on the grid, and actually we're going to create a slight gap. You can do this as a trick too. Like you just keep moving it over. And now that looks almost deliberate. Right. Okay. So let's review by, I'm just going to leave one clip in there, but we're going to, again, put this parented to that one, so that when we move this, it comes down 40 degrees. So I have my ramp animation, so I'm actually going to put this down, and I'll leave it at 35 degrees, not quite touching the ground, right? So I am going to key selected this one, then we're going to go to, I think frame 25 is when it should be fully up, and we're just simply going to animate or keyframe that, so that when we're looking at the ramp here, you can see it intersecting, but you get the concept, right? That's how the ramp will work. There is a little bit more room if you want to bring this ramp down a little further. This could come another 5 degrees down as well. And of course you could also shorten that ramp if we just change the, we want to go to object, so that can be shortened like so. So you can get more clearance if you want. It's still got the dip, like the Falcon. But yeah, again, just proof of concept, and now that this is finished, we can realign the pivot point. It's usually good in these circumstances too to, I'm just going to align this vertically as well. See, it's slightly further above. And we're just going to duplicate and mirror. I think we're on an autosave or a crash. Oh, this could be a crash. No? Yes? It crashed. Well guys, Maya crashed, so I guess we're ending things there. I will see you guys next week, hopefully crash free. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.